All right, hello everyone. Welcome to Fourth Fall. I'm here with Godsman, Gearshift, and Dreamsicle. So we're here to discuss our thoughts and opinions on Springfest a few weeks ago now. Uh, Dreamsicle didn't play, but he's here to vibe, you know. So
Hopefully.
yeah, how about y'all? Y'all give a little introduction for yourselves.
Hi, Godsman here, your resident Shadow Paladin player. I want to be the best that there ever was, and glad to be here.
Hello, Gearshift here, your resident rogue player, here bringing you with some non-standard deck builds, I guess.
And hi, I'm Dreamsicle. I am your resident shit deck player, playing the shittiest decks around, and I'm just here to see what's up.
Top 7 out of 8.
The top 7 out of 8. People actually thought this guy made top 7 out of a kind of good event, and it's like no, it's 7 out of 8. And that's because the 8th guy drops.
Yep.
Yes, the Dung Beetle profile.
Go check out that video if you haven't. It's super fucking funny.
Yeah, link will be in the description to these guys' videos as well.
It's a work of art. You gotta show up. Yeah, and just quick mention before we begin. This is going to be part of a continuing series called Card Talk. If you saw from the thumbnail, then well, you know already. Just wanted to make sure that folks know this is not a one-off. Anyway, let's get started. So, general impressions of the event. How about we start with you, Fourth Fall?
Let's see. Going into the event, I was shitting my pants. Because none of us have been to neither me nor Gearshift have been to a proper event like this before. You have, Godsman, with BRO. You bubbled. Mid 9th place.
Ninth place, bro. That's pretty good.
You were so close, bro. I was rooting you on for that.
Yeah, I think if I had just played slightly better players in my matchups, they would have been like, you know what, you're top 8 material.
Yeah, you almost made it, but hey, I mean we topped 8 this event. So
Yeah,
that's cool.
we did it. We're badasses.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. Sees our deck
Getting ahead
profiles
of ourselves here.
beforehand. Spoilers. We topped 8.
Yeah. We could have made top 4, man, but we'll get to that later.
Right.
Get to that later. So yeah, I was scared shitless because first proper Vanguard event. Going in, I'll be honest, my Maelstrom deck, I was very skeptical of it because leading up to it, I was still in the playtesting phase, and by the time that it was the day to register, you're like, hey, the day to finish registering is tomorrow. I'm like, oh shit, so I gotta finalize this, right? I ended up just keeping the list I had, even though I wasn't 100% sure on it.
God.
Gearshit's over here on the other hand, being with his Amon deck looking, it's like perfection.
Chef's good.
Hey, keep in mind, I did switch decks of choosing which one I was going to go into with.
Once you decided, though, you decided.
First.
I mean, you want to continue?
We all mean.
All right, I'll continue then. It's if I talk about my experience, my friend Fourth Fall here said, one of the first tournaments I entered, haven't even entered a real local, right, to be honest. So that made some impressions. As said earlier, I first thought of playing Ghosty because it's the first deck I built, so I'm more familiar with it. But since this is a team event and there is a good chance of there's no draws, there's only double losses, I don't feel confident in Ghosty to be able to go through 25 minutes and then the 4-turn after clock to be able to pull through, because we don't really have necessarily a kill turn. So I end up switching to Amon because I just found that fun, bit simple. But in terms of the event, it was relatively new experience, I admit. I will say I did feel rushed when I'm playing the event, even though in hindsight I did not need to. I had time, but I always felt like I want to try to avoid that double loss, which did lead, sorry about that. Did lead to some misplays, which that's on me. By the way, yeah, I'm at fault for making us miss top 4. You can blame me for that. But
I
so
don't know.
honestly,
That's debatable. That's
no,
debatable. It
it
might be
is
my
not
fault.
debatable. My fault in that round was much worse than yours, bro. It was much worse.
No, I misplayed harder. No, you misplayed harder.
You topped 8 a tournament that big. I wouldn't be mad going out at 8 in that situation. I
I
think
mean,
that's super cool.
I would like to take the blame, but I actually won my match that round, but just go off, I guess.
Hey, bro, you were the one
Yeah,
carrying.
you can't blame yourself.
Yeah,
You can't take the fall.
I carried, dude.
You can't be the martyr.
Not this time. I can't be like, I'm sorry, guys, I suck.
But yeah,
That's
I
my
just felt
job
like
in tournaments.
Oh,
I just felt like I need to like practice a bit more, just get used to the environment.
mm.
Because me rushing when I had time to just like before I come into the play, see what would actually happen, would have like be able to turn around certain game states where I probably could have won. But it is what it is. But it was still a pretty fun experience, honestly. How about you, Godsman?
Well, okay, so it doesn't need explaining because it's already been brought out there, but this isn't my first time at an event like this. Well, yes and no. See, I did do BRO, did pretty freaking well in it, but that was like an online event. That wasn't in person. So there were some new things here. Like actually going in there, the method of registration was a little bit different. The main thing that got me was there was like this period of silence, right? You know, you're just in there, we're sitting at the table right next to the door because, you know, it's closest to familiar space. And we're just sitting there doe-eyed, like, when is round 1? Where's our guidance, oh great ones? And there's like just, it's supposed to start at 10, or well, registration ends at 10. Then it's not until 10:30 they're like, okay, we're gonna start beginning stuff, and then like they post these papers, and we get mixed up about which listings are standard, which ones are V premium, and then it seems like things are taking forever. I'm like, or do we begin? Do we not? So there's a lot of ambiguity going into it, and I actually did mention that. I forget where I mentioned that, but I had like a review of the event, and I did bring up that yeah, there's a fair bit of ambiguity. So if you're like scared, a la fourth fall, you're just going to become more scared. The uncertainty just multiplies the anxiety. But once like round 1 ended and round 2 began, things really kicked off. Then we hit our groove, we hit the momentum, we hit the stride, pun intended, and it really went off from there. Freaking, I like this event though. It was weird because playing these dudes, it's like every match was tough. Like we didn't have as much representation in the V Premium segment as Standard had representation in terms of members, but that didn't help because that meant everyone who was in V Premium knew their stuff and they chose to play that format. So you knew they were trying to win. You knew they thought that they had a reasonable chance of like coming at it hard. And I don't know why. I guess people, when they look at player A, they're like, let's put our most like heavy-handed aggressive decks in player A. Well, we'll talk about what player B's and player C's were like, but player A's,
And player B's, I got some shit to say about
oh yeah,
player
you got
B's.
some stuff. I'm gonna laugh at
Hey,
you
all
too.
familiar matchups though. All familiar.
A prelude. So yeah, like in player A's, right? Like check this crap out. We start off light and easy with Chronojet. Catch my sarcasm there. Literally went to 5 damage before I went to like grade 3. But again, first for reference, I'm playing Revengers. Anyone who knows me knows that's not a goddamn surprise. Of course I'm playing Revengers. It's like my premier deck. So I just clapped back really hard. It was kind of his mistake. Then, you know, we're like, you know, maybe you deserve a break. Let's play the Cross. So, okay, god damn it. And they're like, the Cross? Yeah, maybe that's a little harsh. Let's give you Prism. And like, and that's how it was, right? We're moving on. It's like, Prism, like, ooh, bro, that was a lot of card advantage. I'm not sure how I, like, chug through that. To be fair, I kind of sacked, but we're not going to talk about that. So they're like, okay, round 4, yeah, let's not deal with card advantage. Instead, let's deal with you dying before grade 3. No, seriously, Astral Poet came up. That was my one loss of the tourney was against this Astral Poet dude. Which, fun fact, in top 8, I like ended up facing that dude all over again and got him back. So I'm like, vindicated. Absolution, bro. Like, no one's touching this. Oh, and I fought Tachi's guy. Ironically, that might have been the funnest match, but it wasn't necessarily the most difficult. He did make me use every single like card guard I had, though, so I was like, this was a lot closer than I would have expected. Military Raptors kind of putting in their work a bit. Yeah, this wasn't like Gaia Spino. This was like Colonel Spino, which was a bit avant-garde, because I don't think that's correct by comparison, but then again, who cares about correct? It's Springfest, right? And that brings me to the other point, right? Compared to BRO was like fairly serious. Like you fought like a lot of nice folk, but then near like the end, when you started getting to like more of the top tables, the folk got really serious. So I'm like, whereas in Springfest, everyone was pretty nice. Like, everyone was pretty freaking nice. There's a lot of socializing. There's a lot of chatting.
You know what I think contributed to that?
What?
The fact that it was in person. The fact that
Very
we were all
much.
sitting across from each other, like, you had to make it less awkward for everyone by trying to, break the ice and stuff. Because otherwise, we were just going to be sitting there like a bunch of jackasses.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm just there and I'm just like making a lot of small talk. Like, I'm kind of the clown of the group, to be quite frank. You guys can testify to that. I'm just like chatting it up with everyone, be like, oh yeah, nice sleeves, or are you guys whiffing out? Like, stuff like that. So, it's all fun days. And it didn't feel as tense as BRO until you made it to top 8. Then everything changed. Like, the Fire Nation attacked, and suddenly everything was serious mode. That was hard ass round, hard round
against a team of dudes we'd already beaten before.
Yeah,
No, we lost.
We lost to them. Unfortunately, that was the one round that I ended up losing, and unfortunately, our boy Gearshift lost that too. And so we ended up like 1-2ing to them, and then we just 1-2 to them in the top 8 again. Like, respect to those guys, they deserved it. They did deserve the win. They were a pretty strong freaking team. It could have been any man's game, but I'll be real with you. Everyone in the top 8 was pretty much like at a similar level, and I can tell because basically everyone we played for the most part made it to top 8 or just like barely scrubbed out of it. So you can get an impression of what they were like. Is there anything else I want to mention?
That one team that failed deck check.
I yet to mention that.
Yeah. So
Okay, hold on. I have a question.
yeah.
How do you go in to a tournament that big? Because I just want to reiterate, I wasn't there. How do you go into a tournament that big and fail a deck check? How?
Well, let me tell you how. So, here we are, we're sitting there being good little goobers and having proper decks ready and being checked. My sleeves were a little bit nasty, so he had me switch them out. Fortunately, I had like a spare set of Dragon Shields lying around, as you should. So, while we're doing that, he mentions that 9th place gets bumped up to 8 because the other dude, like one team, like failed deck check, right? So we're like, okay, so how they do it? Here's how they did it. So the first time around, there was a dude.
2 cards missing.
Yeah, there was 2 cards missing from the deck, and they're like, So they find these cards eventually, but that's like strike 1. And then strike 2, I believe, had to do with their sleeves, right? I think there was something wrong with their sleeves. Like, they're nasty. They didn't have replacements of those sleeves, and they weren't like able to like get replacements. So that was just strike 2. You're out. They didn't even get to strike 3. Like, look, there's just too much problems. We need to keep this moving along. This is kind of.
Was it sleeves?
I think it was sleeves, right? Because if I remember.
I mean, I thought it was like another person had like a card that wasn't supposed to be in their deck.
Oh, yeah, that was another thing. Thanks for mentioning that. That they had 2 other things wrong after that. They had, like, the slave thing, but then they also had another guy who had a card, and it's because the kind of card that they had, like, it was the proper card, but it was the improper, like, rarity and set that it was released in, and they were kind of sticklers for that. So, yeah, that's something to be noted. So that kind of sucks for them. They were just like, look, guys, there's just too much wrong here. We can't do it. Which, I'm like, bro. Imagine that, making a top 8 and then failing deck check? That's so sad.
That must suck.
Yeah, that sucks like a mother.
I could only pray that happens to no one. Like, I feel bad going in hard on them for that because that sucks.
Yeah, that's like just having your dreams just like ripped violently from you. That's so sad. But yeah, overall, it was pretty freaking fun. It was really, really, really fun. The only thing I would say is not so much fun is having to wake up like goddamn early in the morning and then waiting there for a while before we're going in. I felt like I was going to throw up a little bit because I had like not a lot of food in my stomach, and that's just how it be. So I'm like, oh god, I'm getting the jitters, and just no. They're like, no food. Hey, fourth fall. Want to tell them about their no food policy?
Right. The no food policy. I ended up bringing some snacks over for the event to eat between rounds because I was like, okay, well, gonna get hungry in the middle of that, right? And I didn't know where the nearest like food place was gonna be. So what ended up happening was, as I walk in and they're checking our bags and stuff, it was like a goddamn airport, right? Which is funny because there's an airport like right next door to the center. But it was like an airport terminal thing where they were checking everybody with like the wand things, those like metal detecting wands, and like ripping through your bags and stuff. And they're like, okay, so you got your decks here, you got your mats. What's this? I'm like, oh, that's those without snacks. He's like, yeah, you can't have that. I go, what? He goes, yeah, you can't have that. You got to throw it away. I'm like, ah, shit, dude.
Dumped.
And I ask him, I'm like, was there any way that I could have known that beforehand? At the risk of sounding like a Karen, I really didn't want to, but like, I had to ask. I had to ask the question because I'm like, this is a real thing here. So like,
He's salty. He's as
I
salty
mean,
as his
yeah,
snacks.
there was
his
a
only
little
Oh,
salt.
warning,
guy.
I lost that
which he
too.
didn't see, was there was a sign in front of the door that said it, but he went from the other direction, so he never saw the sign.
Read the sign, sir. What the frick? And the funniest part is because Gearshift ended up like driving me and himself, right? And so the two of us drove up there. We could have just had like fourth fall snacks
Food
in his car. Yeah,
before you got into the tournament.
yeah, seriously, we could have been like,
But
hey, just
your
drop them off
shift
there.
didn't think to tell me.
Hey, I only thought of it the moment you threw it in the trash.
It was already too late. Unless you want to pick it up from the trash buster. Yeah, that's funny.
God damn. Yeah. Well, I mean, it is what it is, I guess.
So yeah, okay, like that's like kind of the general vibe of the event. It's fun, but it's tense, and literally like every mother effort is making us like fight for our life. It feels like it's kind of a strange atmosphere because we're all nice to each other. We're all really nice. It's like okay, now let's smile, hold hands, and go into this like fun bit of suffering together. It's the tournament environment is so different that way. It's like, hey, like I love you, man, but when we're in this, we're gonna have to go through this. You know that, right? It's like, yep, okay. It's almost like we didn't even want to play the matches. Sometimes we're just there, like, okay, let's see who moves on and gets the G. But yeah, that's what it felt like to me. Do you guys have like a different impression though?
Hmm. I, I don't have any like strong feelings. It's like I just went in there and sat down and just waited.
I mean, I can only imagine how fucking tense it was. It was just like, oh, okay, I'm here, I'm doing this. Here is a person who I've never played before sitting in front of me,
Mm-hmm.
and now I have to just hope I do well.
Mm. Man.
That's like some
You know what I
shit.
was scared of? The mirror match.
Ah, the Maelstrom mirror. But
You
let's
know
talk
why?
about what you
You know
actually
why?
got.
Fucking glory Maelstrom. I know how powerful it is, and because of that, I don't want to go against it because can't I can't guard against it.
Yeah, it's
I,
it's
I'm
it's
running I'm running the heal guards in my deck. 15. They're not 20s. So how am I supposed to do this?
tisk
You
bro.
hope for a trigger.
Hope for a trigger. Hope for a defensive. Hope for 6 damage shield. That's how you win. You just like trigger sack. Bro. So we know I played against. What did you play against fourth fall? Tell us how that experience was.
All right. So my matchups. By the way, this was in 5 rounds. I believe.
Had
So
5 rounds of Swiss and one top 8.
right. So 5 rounds of Swiss and the top tables after that. So for round 1, I faced Gold Paladin, Gurguit deck, which I was like, oh, great Paladins, right? What a fantastic start. also a bit of a prelude to the entire day, I think. But so this Gurgut guy, right? He's going super aggressive on me and pushes me to 5 real quick. But then I managed to trigger sack with Maelstrom, getting like multiple triggers, and he was done after that. I think we were the first guys done in our team. So trigger sacking with Maelstrom, that's always good.
Damage checks, Percival.
Myself. That too. His first damage was a Percival. So yeah, rip to that. He wasn't getting that back.
The one and only Percival. Yikes.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Round 2 was Royal Paladin. It was a Jewel Knight player. So yeah. Super aggressive there. I'd never played against Jewel Knights before, so because again, all of us here are relatively new to the game. Only been playing for about a year or so. So I haven't had much experience against Jewel Knights in particular, and so the sheer amount of aggression just caught me off guard. I was talking to Godsman like a couple weeks before the event, and I told him my practice methodology, which was that I would always assume that the opponent would, at bare minimum, have about 5 attacks. And he's like, "Oh no, you're overreacting. What about all the 3-attack clans and blah blah blah?" I'm like, "No, I'm not overreacting. This is going to be standard here." And lo and behold, yeah, I faced off against like what I think was 9 attacks from that deck. I think.
To be fair,
Sounds like a
the
Paladin deck.
clans I fought against were more around the ballpark of like 4-attack clans max, because they just had like big, like Vanguard centric like OTK strategies. But yeah, yours were different.
Yeah, they really were. So that round I lost, unfortunately. But round 3 was against our dear old friends here, Shadow Paladin.
Ah, the meats.
Luard. Yeah, that was real fun. Luckily, the dude bricked.
It's perfectly valid to win via the brick.
Right.
Especially against fucking
So,
Luard.
They deserve it, bro. They've got so few great
Yeah, they're
threes.
playing Luard. They deserve to brick with that day.
Their ratios are
Honestly.
greedy as a mother effer.
Like, man, dude, like Luard, and we practiced a good bit against Luard prior to the event as well, so that kind of helped out a lot too. And funnily enough, I think this is the guy actually that ended up moving up
Yeah.
to the final round as well.
Yep, it is.
Yeah, the one who bricked.
Round 4.
So yeah, round 4, Shadow Paladins again. So if you're keeping track here, that's 4 Paladins in a row, guys. 4 fucking Paladin decks.
I should have been player B,
And
bro.
at this point, I was like, dude, why the fuck am I playing so many Paladins? This ain't right. It was fucking Luard again. They were playing rough too. They were playing real rough, but I did end up scoring that win. I believe against both Luard decks, I ended up dropping Glory Maelstrom when they were at 3 damage, and it ended up killing both of them.
Yep, that's a fact. Just
Yeah,
remember, Glory is a win condition. Maybe not the strongest compared to a couple others, but it for ease of use, it's kind of nuts.
Right. And like, I forget if any of them got damage triggers. I'm sure one of them probably did, but it ended up not mattering in the end because I drove checked a couple of triggers myself. So
One of them,
was,
one of them got it as a 5th damage check, but it was already too late. He was too far behind. The guy who bricked and couldn't get his drag hearts, his last 2 damage checks were drag hearts.
yeah, that was. Yeah, he kept riding into drag driver, which was.
You had to, bro.
Yeah,
He
I mean,
did, yeah.
he had no other choice.
Oh man.
But Yeah, and round 5 was fucking dark irregular. Amon.
Not much better.
Yeah,
Familiar
so
matchup.
Gear, you got any thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts were I thought I was gonna be like probably maybe the only one that showed up with Amon. It turns out in total there's maybe 4 or 5 Amon players at the event. So that was a surprise to me.
People like
Yeah,
the
all of
spice.
them were under the same thought process. Like, nobody's gonna expect Amon. Lo and behold.
Well, it's like those people over at Magic Mountain when they all buy like the fast pass, but then everyone is in the fast lane, so the fast lane is the slow lane now.
Right. Needless to say, I lost because I'm a piece reliant deck, and if my pieces keep getting sucked into Soul, I can't play. So yeah.
Hates DI,
Playing against
hates
that deck is super
Paladins,
hard. It
literally
really is
plays
super
them.
hard to play against that.
It's hard. It is hard.
Yeah. The real story though comes in the top 8 game against that same Luard guy who kept writing Drag Driver. Because this time around to top 8 he didn't break. He went full force on me. And we're moving into time here, right? We're like, okay, we're running out of time here, and he is at 5 damage. I'm at that point I'm at 4, and I'm doing everything in my power to not die to this guy. And I'm fairly certain that I can do it. One of my options there is actually just to stall out on my turn until time is up. That way, since he's at 5 damage, he would get the loss, right? So that's one strategy, but for one of his drive checks, he ended up getting a heal. So rip to that, right? Another strategy I thought, I'm like, okay, so I have a PG in hand. He's got 1 attack left. I have this PG, but if I get rid of this PG, then I have to get rid of this Terrific Coil Dragon in my hand, because those are my last 2 cards. I also have Glory Maelstrom as well, I believe, so that's 3 cards. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm at 4 damage. He's got like the double crit thing, so I could take the gamble and hope for a heal, which I did have in the deck. I knew for a fact that I did, and the math was looking okay. But I'm like, all right, I could either PG this, because he damage denied me as well, so I wouldn't be able to use Glory's effect. I'm like, I could either PG this and just try to see if Glory could do anything without any damage. Try to pressure 1 damage out of him. That way he would still get the loss, because he would go to 5, but if he's at 5 and I stall out long enough, then, my win, right? But I'm looking at his hand, I'm like, he's probably cut all the cards to guard it anyway, so I'm gonna need the damage to try to, like, further solidify my win here, right? So I decide to take the gamble. He attacks me for the 2 crit. I don't get a heal. So I end up losing the game there, but I end up thinking after the fact, I'm like, should I have taken the gamble? But he showed me his hand afterwards. He had all triggers in hand. All triggers. So I'm doubting that I could have tried to kill with Glory without his effect, but there was always, I guess, the possibility of trying it, And I guess there was also the possibility of me drive checking the heal. Then again, I think it was further down in the deck, wasn't it, guys?
Yeah, but
Do you remember?
But the thing about it is you're going to get a Drifting Flow, and Drifting Flow could peep 7. Would have had a Maelstrom since we saw what your deck was, and then you shuffle, which resets the RNG. So it's very possible.
Oh, true. Yeah, Drifting Flow was one of the cards I would have gotten had I perfect guarded. So, I'm really wondering if I ended up costing us the top 4 there. Gear might have something to say about that, but I think I could have gotten, because these two, Godsman had already won his game. Gearshift, I'm looking over at him, I'm sweating bullets because I'm like, oh fuck. And then I look at him, he's losing. I'm like, oh shit, I really can't lose now.
Oh my god, it really does feel like that. Like you're looking at your last player and they're just not doing good, and you're just like, oh no.
But like you
Yeah,
look
I'm
at your
like,
first
oh fuck,
player
the
and like
top 8
he's
rests on
winning.
my shoulders.
Like you look at your first player, he's already won. So like you are the middleman. Like you are the thing. Like it's not like decided one way or another.
Literally, player B, I am the middleman.
Mhm.
But yeah, dude, the amount of pressure that was on me for that was fucking insane. I just did not. I was scared. You could see. Do you see why I was scared, guys? Like the amount of pressure there, man. Jesus.
It's big.
Yeah, man. Like, dude, it. And then that game that you and I had a couple days before, the one we recorded and is on my channel. Links will be in the description for that match that Godsman and I had. Go check it out. Shameless plug. But in the final round, which is on Godsman's channel, go check that out.
Or audio, but still.
In that final game against Godsman, I ended up PGing and discarding a trigger, which I could have used because it had the extra 5k shield to guard against his Revenger stuff. So like, I feel like I just have a habit of at the very last second throwing the game for like a very stupid guarding mistake. Like it's just a thing with me. Like in any other instance I do fine, but like when it's like right there at the very end where it counts the most, it just I fall short. It's like, ah man, it's honestly a habit I need to get out of. I gotta really work on that if like we're gonna make top 4 or the next one, you know?
Yeah, that's our goal, guys. We made top 8, which is our goal this one. We got to make top 4 on the next one. Easy peasy, right? I mean, that was our whole like motto as a team. Our motto was just win, easy.
Hey, maybe next time I'll have my own team for the next one. We're all just playing shit decks.
Oh hell yeah, dude! Like you can go up. Let's see who would even play with you. Yeah, whatever. That's a different topic. Freaking Gearshift, my man. Tell us, relate to us your matchups.
Well, with the details.
All right. So being player C, it seems for the most part I get one of the more roguish decks, I guess, out of like the 3. So my first round was versus Magatsu. For someone new who's not as experienced in the game, it was actually pretty good for me because I actually built Magatsu before, so I know how it works. It came down to the fact that I Gastilled with 15 soul. He lived. It is very crucial that he use a protect deck because he can choose to take the damage and then pitch the protect marker's damage, which just disappears. So he's at 3. So he can take 1. So he's at 5. He lives. His turn. By all means, he should be killing me here. But he finally got Magatsu reverse out, and he chose to take the gamble of having only 2. Was it 2 swings? No, it was like 3 swings and then 2. Yeah. So that's a total of 4, I'd say. At least that's the most he could have done at that point. 4, because he had to force to lock all his other units. So it's only his Vanguard swing and his Magatsu reverse, which is essentially another Vanguard swing. He didn't know I had a PG, so I managed to PG that. And then next turn, I'm still stuck at 15, but he has 5 damage. I kill him that turn. Second round, I believe was versus Night Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Now for Night Rose, my opponent was actually kind of unlucky because he had to G-assist for his grade 2. But even when he G-assist, he did not see his grade 2, so he was stuck in grade 1 for a bit. So even though I went second, I ended up kind of going first in this scenario. Now, something really bad that I did was I forgot about Ironheart Assassin's effect when rolled upon. So what that would have changed is that I would have had 15 soul for Gastille when I had to possibly kill him. I'm not too confident because once again he's a protect deck, so he has like some ways to go around certain effects. But eventually he managed to simplify the game state and I lost for that one. Third round, I want to say was versus Sherrod. I want to say at that point it was like it wasn't Sherrod. It was Gurgit.
Ah yes.
Yeah, it was Gurgit. This one was an unfamiliar match for me. All I basically knew is that it swings a lot. It, for as unfamiliar as it wasn't too threatening for me, especially because I did manage to soul charge 20 into Gastille turn. So Gurgit's auto effects was turned off, so its defensive capability was very limited along with that. And then I guess I should also mention he also had to G-assist. He hit his G-assist, but that's like 2 valuable shields out of his hand that probably helped me win the game. And then the 4th round, that was Sharad. This one, yeah, this one, this is the one I definitely misplayed. It was a grinding matchup, but honestly, as you can notice, like so far, 3 out of the 4 player Cs were protect decks for some reason. So it was an interesting matchup because I always like force him to soul charge, but Sharad is also kind of piece reliant in itself, and he for a good part of the match had to play a number of Terra Control because he did not find Sharad till like the very last moments of the game. Now the sad part is that I overcommitted because I never got to go steel turn, but Amon probably was enough. But I didn't realize that I would have gone to 3-drive and had like 6 cards in my deck because I demonted early in the turn. So I ended up decking out because I played a lot of draw triggers. That's my fault. I rushed. I didn't look at the field. So that was my misplay. Round 5 was versus Revengers. A very familiar matchup.
Sorry about
A
that.
very, very familiar matchup because Godsman here is essentially my practice partner for this event. So I knew that matchup well. So one of the good things about that matchup is the way my deck is built is I am fine keeping my opponent at 3 because Gastille can kill you at 3 damage. So that was the game plan to that matchup. Always keep him at 3 for as most as you can until you do a Gastille turn. So that's essentially what I did. Unfortunately, I did get to the point that if I wanted to swing, I would get him over 3, and I would have to Gastille next turn, hope he doesn't have another Raging Form. His misplay here was probably he chose to call Raging Form to buff up his Raging Form reverse, which a bit questionable, because usually you want like the multi-swing with a lot of Raging Forms. But hey, we take those.
Weird. He was committing way too much to fall.
Yeah, but that's what happened. So I was able to get back on the crackback because I did manage to get Gastille after great research previous turn and just kill him there. I will say I also have to mention that matchup. One of his opponents mentioned to me that because it didn't matter in this matchup, but the grade 2 Amon's Faller Ron Jeanlin had the physical text of 6 or less. So for those of you guys listening, I should mention here that even though the physical card text says 6 or less, that's actually a misprint. So it should actually say 6 or more. You can like look it up in the Bushiroad site. It'll say it's 6 or more.
Yeah, Gearshift was telling me about that after the fact, and I it's too bad the guy had already left. So I'm like, no, I called bullcrap. There's an errata on this.
Yeah, and then the top 8 matchup. Here's where I say I'm at fault for this one, for us not getting top 4. It's like,
oh Lord.
Look, my man first of all here, he was like it was debatable whether it was the right play or not in terms of like possibly chancing it maybe, but I actually had the opportunity to kill the man on my side of things, but I misplayed hard. So what happened? I got to the point where I had 20 soul, and on my Gastille turn.
First off, what were you playing against?
The same guy I lost. I decked out to Sharad.
Oh, the same guy. Okay.
Yeah. Apparently, there's something up with my cuts because once again he had to like G-assist, I think. It's like there wasn't one opponent where there was like missing a crucial piece or they had to like Jesus or something bad happened. My opponent was like, "You have some like amazing
like-
cuts," and I only cut.
You
I
have
just do
like
like
a-
one cut.
It's like a green thumb, but like the opposite.
Oh my god, dude!
The thumb of the cut of death.
It's the Dark
Yes.
Irregulars.
I literally
Cast.
cut it and I just like cut once. It's like for the most part just like perfectly in half. That's like it is what it is. But my problem here is that I committed to a Gastille turn. He lives that turn. Well, it's because he's one of the few people who actually played like the counter card to a Gastille turn. He plays Crit Sense, so there's nothing in Gastille that restricts that. So he was able to block my last attack that would have killed him. And even then, he would have had from what we saw, he would have like had healed one of the damage, so he would have lived for one. But looking back at it, I noticed there was a mix-up. There's a contradiction in what I thought and what I did. I did a Gastille turn, so I should be planning to kill him here, and yet I was trying to keep cards in my hand. So what did that cost me? That cost me putting a booster behind Gastille for that could help me filter out my deck for triggers, because I didn't hit a single trigger off my Vanguard swing, which is a bit unfortunate. It cost me the very cool play of possibly making my opponent put a card from hand to soul, because I had a Devonted and Ron in hand to get to my 20 soul charge. The problem was I need exactly 2. So if I put down Ron, he could have put down another card into his soul, so I only soul charge 1. But honestly, I should have just did that and then just call Ron anyways, since I was committing to killing him this turn.
Mm-hmm.
So ideally, that would have made like 2 swings a breakthrough. One of those swings will be healed. So hopefully the other swing, which is probably going to be Ron, which is actually a bigger swing, because it would be at 19 at that point, and maybe hit a trigger or not. Possibly kill him. But that's why I argue that I made the misplay there. I was at this state where I had game. Even if we like ignore the heal trigger, I still misplayed in hindsight. So that's more of my fault compared to you possibly or not, like choosing to block or not block. Because I had the chance to kill. So that's on me.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, I believe I gloried the Luard guy my previous turn,
Yeah, you did.
but he got damage triggers. So,
Yikes.
yeah, that's luck was on his side. I feel like for a lot of this because he also healed. You know, he got those damage triggers. Like
He
the dude was
also
fortunate.
double critted you at one point.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it was more like a luck thing. Like he kind of lucks at you, whereas with Gearshift here, the fault was more on like his decision making. So I can see where then his misplay was more like of a pure misplay, whereas circumstances was going against you.
Yeah, for me. I had a choice between gambling one way or the other to try to get the win, and I just chose the wrong one.
Yeah, and that's just what it is, right? You know, in a game like this, it's just choices at the end of the day. Okay, that's just what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, so that was the event. That was basically the event in a nutshell. Does anyone have any like comments about it?
I mean, it sounded like y'all had fun.
Hella.
Oh yeah, it was fun. Yeah, but like
It's fun. We got our top 8 prize card.
Yeah, we did. Good old goal mark, a prize card that I'm actually going to be freaking using.
how much are those going for anyway?
I
Are
don't
they
think
even,
they
like
put a price up for those yet.
They haven't priced up for him.
Hold
Here come.
on, I'm looking this up right now.
Yeah, there's nothing on TCG Player, so you probably have to go on eBay or something.
Yeah, fair enough.
Probably.
So, One thing that I thought about with regards to this is looking at like what actually showed up, and we also have results from another event, which was over in Antwerp, right? I thought about, I'm like, I made a meta-analysis prior to this, and I'm like, there's some things here that was correct, and there's some things here that was not correct. It kind of threw me off. Like, for instance, Prism was actually a thing there. It's more in Antwerp that like really succeeded, but Prism was a thing. I put Shadow Paladins in A because I was like, yeah, Revengers, it will probably do stuff even above the Ward. But when you include Antwerp and how I performed, yeah, it deserved to be an S tier. But by contrast, Aquaforce, there was nobody. That was not an S. There was nobody there.
Apart from my ass.
You're
I was
the
the only
only
one.
Aquaforce player. Seriously. And here we thought with Pursuit Assault that Thavas would do something. No, it's still Maelstrom. It's still Glory.
Yeah, Glory is that good of a win condition,
No kidding. Yeah, it really is. And also Messiah. Why was there no Messiah? They were so big in BRO, but no one dared to try for Springfest.
Dude, we kept asking around at Springfest. We found, count 'em, one Link Joker player, and they were playing Chaos, and I'm pretty sure they scrubbed out early on.
Yeah, which, I mean, it's Chaos Breaker. I can see why, but, like, bro, not even a Messiah player, right? Just like as we expected Thavas to be here, no, it's just a Maelstrom player. Like, and to be fair, you actually did good. Like, of course you did good, but freaking crap, dude. That just totally went against, like, the expectations. Astral Poets actually were a thing. Genesis in general was actually a thing, so that was a correct prediction.
Remember when I was debating my list, I was like, man, I'm not sure about this list. For a hot minute there, I was serious.
Well, he was so excited that his PC came down.
He couldn't handle it.
Man, we should keep this in.
Could not handle it.
We should just keep this in because that's just what it is. That's funny as frick.
This is where you hit the technical difficulty beat.
Yeah.
Cut that. Oh,
there
we go.
Okay, I'm back.
You feel embarrassed
problems. Technical problems. What the fuck happened?
So
you got cut off essentially.
Anyway, you were talking about how you were considering Thavas.
Yeah, I was seriously considering doing that, and just ordering Pursuit Assaults with expedited shipping, so I could get them in time for the event. But yeah, it was. I just ended up sticking to my guns and going with Maelstrom because it's the deck I'm most familiar with. It's the one I started with when I first got into the game, so I felt like it only made sense.
Yeah, that was probably a correct choice at the end of the day when we think about it. Because if you ask me, I still believe Maelstrom is a better deck than Thavas in terms of Aquaforce. I think Maelstrom is the best V premium deck for it, but that's just how I look at it. People seem to prefer Thavas because it's more reliable and it's got the Excel marker generation, but they don't have Glory.
The thing with Maelstrom is that yes, it has a very good win condition with Glory, and it's very strong, and it's very it punishes you, right? It really knows how to beat you down. But the thing with Thavas is that it's just consistent. You will always get your pieces no matter what. Okay, it draws for days,
Yeah. Although you don't have many searches for Thavas himself.
True, but you are running the Nikis, you're running the Baragios, and with all the cards that draw in the deck, you'll get into it at some point, so I really don't find that's an issue.
Yeah.
The whole power versus consistency argument.
One thing to note though is early game for Thavas is not that great unless it really explodes on the scene. They seem to take a little bit of their time, whereas Maelstrom, if you have your pieces, and that's the whole if, right? If you got your pieces, then oh boy, it's already hitting hard as a mother effort and getting loads of advantage.
Right. With the lack of confidence I had going in, I was surprised I got as many pieces as I did in those games.
I thought you were going to G-assist for grade 1 because your ratios are not that great.
I almost did, but I didn't. That was against the Salome player.
Yeah, you might as well have G-assisted in that round, Jesus.
Yeah, we were both praying to Jesus.
What's up, Dream?
I have like an off-topic question.
What's
Because
up?
I was sitting here thinking about it. I know I introduced myself as like the shit deck player, and so I was wanting to know what was like the out of the ordinary, probably shouldn't have been at a Springfest decks.
Magatsu.
Just Magatsu, you think? Like everyone
Magatsu
else is playing
was a
like
Eh,
big one.
decent decks.
I
you're
would have
kind of
said,
doing that guy dirty, bro.
look, I'm just gonna be playing with it. Like, I didn't expect like anything from Nubatama as a whole, other than maybe Shiranui. But Magatsu, yeah, look, okay, I might be doing him dirty, but I don't believe in Magatsu. I just don't. And we only really saw that one guy for the most part. And he didn't
Hey, you
make
only
it.
see one guy walking for us, bro.
Yeah, but here's the thing: he did make it.
That's true.
Yeah, and
That's
it
true.
had a top 8 in BRO as well, which is an even more rigorous event, arguably. I would say it
And it
is,
wasn't team based.
and it
BRO
wasn't team
wasn't
based.
team based. This one was.
Yeah, so that's another thing, right? That was like totally out of cuff, you know. That's one. I would have said Amon if it wasn't for the fact that there were several. They were giving people problems, and Gear here actually tops. I would have said Amon, but no, it's actually proving
I
itself.
mean, from what I've heard, all my player C's beat the other Amon decks. So,
Yeah, but they didn't beat you. Oh, some of them did.
well, that's because I built the deck different. At least I'm assuming I did.
Yeah, the secret spice, the secret genius of it, right?
Dude, nobody else was playing the amount of draw triggers you were. It was
Yeah, it doesn't
I
matter
mean,
what the deck
man,
was.
fucking that when we got mentioned in WCC, like the fucking look he gave.
Kai was like having a heart attack. He was having a stroke when Kelvin brought up the 10 draw. He's like, this man's not afraid. You did deck
to be
out though.
fair, yeah, I did. But to be fair, I am willing to take these chances because remember I used to ran this build at 12 draw, and that was inspired by the fact that I played the Ghosty with all draw triggers.
Ah, Ghosty. Imagine Grand Blue with 12 draw. Yeah, that's a thing.
Goddamn, dude. Remember when I was having deck out problems for running 4 Sea Otter Soldier?
Yeah, you were running like
Along with
8
4
draws
Pascal?
and you were decking out because Maelstrom gets greedy.
Yeah, man, like Maelstrom already gets like multiple drive checks. So the fact that I have draw triggers on top of that, I was decking myself out way too quickly.
Yeah, like tisk tisk, bro. Tisk tisk. So like and it's interesting too, like our decks that we're topping, Amon didn't see any of the tops so far, and neither did Maelstrom or just Aqua Force as a whole, really. The only thing that has seen other tops is Revengers. As a matter of fact, in Antwerp, I think there was a Revenger player for the 3rd and 4th place on those things, and I kind of predicted it. I literally named my deck on the deck log Revengers greater than Luard, and I think that's true. I think they have become the better, if not the best, Shadow Paladin deck now.
I mean, it's probably more consistent. I'll give you that.
Yeah, and honestly, its power output is great if you run the Mordred. I need to say it right here, right now, fellas. Mordred is correct. Don't just run 4 Fall and 4 Raging and expect to win a lot, because Fall is great, but he's very niche. Don't act like he's supposed to be your main or even secondary Vanguard. He's not.
I thought you said don't run 4th Fall. I was like, what?
Don't run 4th
I mean,
Fall.
technically correct.
Just don't run him over. Freaking
like
4th Fall
But
got
yeah,
ran
I
over by a
mean,
reindeer.
regardless, Luard isn't dead. It's still showing tops. So it still has its game plan.
It's not dead. That is true. Luard is like attempting things. And it is dangerous. Like, here's the thing: they lost their countercharging, but if the tempo goes their way, then they can still hit really, really, really hard. I think, as a matter of fact, like, unless you set up really properly, their turn 4 is superior to Revengers. And then they scale out of control. But Revengers have such of an aggressive start that it probably doesn't matter depending on the game state.
In addition to that, the good Luard players right now, they're anticipating the damage deny as well. Both Shadow Paladin players I went against had that going for them, that they anticipated the damage deny. So honestly, I didn't bother. I just went like full aggression on them. And I mean, in Swiss, I ended up winning, so woot. not the final round, but yeah, they're going to be, you know, budgeting their resources accordingly, I think.
Right, and they play really smart too. Gear, you actually play a bit of Luard as well, and you know when and playing against Gear especially, I came to realize that Damage Deny is just not really correct because even in a slow game state, at some point you're gonna have to try and progress things, and they're fine with waiting for a bit. If you don't just like gauntlet buster them or something immediately and try to just hammer for a bunch of crits, so I just thought, you know what, F it, just go really fast and aggressive and like build up a hand, get them really close to death, and just finish them off as soon as you can. Because to me, the real weakness of Luard is not even like the damage so much. It is now another weakness of theirs. To me, the real weakness though lies in that they don't have some supreme defensive ability. Their 10k intercepts like are annoying, sure, but unless things are really going their way, they don't farm a lot of defense. So you're able to like hurt them really hard.
You know, one thing I could have done against both Luard players is gone into reverse Maelstrom, and then because he's got the 2 crit inherently, pressure them for 3 damage if I drive check a crit. I didn't end up doing that though. One, because Luard is just going to get their resources back anyway, even if, you know, I'm pressuring them, and they retire. Like, they could just guard it appropriately and then just call their entire field back, basically. So it's like, what does that do, right?
Yeah, that would have been
in
pointless.
addition to that, against the Salome player, I did end up riding reverse Maelstrom. The one time, the entire event, I rode reverse, and I ended up losing that game. I'm like, yeah, this probably ain't it, Chief. This probably ain't it. Maelstrom reverse, he's great in certain matchups, but I never had those matchups where he would shine. You know, like a matchup like Messiah would have been really, really good because then I could just attack into Volca Code and retire it.
I think even like against like fellow Aqua Force players who are peace reliant, that's pretty devastating.
Right. But I just never ended up going against a deck that really needed their pieces, you know? So, yeah, the reverse just did not come up, like, at all. He was just discard fodder for me.
Speaking of reverses... Sorry, go on.
I mean, that was essentially just, like, who was player B? And as you can see, player B did not have a lot of variety in who was player B.
Player B was just Paladins, and that's their whole thing, is get back rearguards anyway.
Paladins for 4 out of the 5 Swiss, and then for finals.
It's so rough, man. It's so rough.
Yeah, dude, that's like comparable to what I had to freaking deal with, dude. Like,
man, I beat the Shadow Paladins, but I lose to Salome.
You also beat the gold player. You beat the gold player in the beginning. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, like I lose to Salome. Dark Irregular, it's understandable, you know, it's Dark Irregular because they suck up my pieces, but like Salome.
If you don't trust me, that happened to me too at first, but then like you just have to like understand how to play against that. Like when people like some people are saying I had cap for putting Salome in S tier when it came to the Clan Collection reveals that we just got like this past time. It's not cap. That thing is a possible meta contender as we see. The same thing happened to Maelstrom and RFD, and lo and behold, here they are. Like that list is actually very, very good. I think it holds up considering these results.
Well, man, I don't think Salome made top 8 though, did it?
No, it didn't make top 8, but it's still a meta contender. And I've seen like I think there was even more than one Jewel Knight player.
I will say to be was Salome a round 1 player or round 2 player?
Round 2.
Actually, then, never mind.
Oh wait, they had to have topped then because that was like the one team that was.
Yeah, that was the one team that went X1 in Swiss.
Yeah, so it did top. It had to have topped because it was that team. So yeah, it did top. You see what I mean?
I mean, to be fair, it's like I remember looking at one of the top 4 matches, and I saw Himiko.
Ah, yes, the Himiko player.
Oh boy.
Yes, Himiko. I was wondering about that too. I'm like, yeah, Genesis is not necessarily a one clan system if you consider Himiko. I mean, Himiko just has some insane OTK potential. It's basically like the Valkyrian game plan, but it does it in a different way. It's like it's not as big.
I was considering building that as my next online deck. Himiko Reverse.
Himiko Reverse, yeah. You know, speaking of reverses, I wanted to get to this point. So, me and Fourthfall have already got our reverses, right? You know, we got RFD and Maelstrom Reverse.
But we're going through this again.
But we're pretty sure that we're going to get an Amon reverse. Like, basically, sir, we're going to get an Amon reverse, and we don't know what Mega Colony reverse we're going to be getting. I wonder about that. You guys are about to join the club.
It's gotta be like a Gridora or a Giraffa. It's gotta be one of the two.
Probably a Giraffa. I don't want to see a machining reverse.
No, if it's a machining reverse, I'm gonna be really sad because machining is probably the worst version of Mega Colony. Which sucks because they can do some cool stuff, but just the output isn't there.
Yeah, I mean, hell, when you look at it, even things like Venom Stinger and like the Gunning Coolio deck out strategies are probably superior to machining.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's something I've been thinking about for a while now. Just, oh god, my reverse unit isn't like shit.
That's true. That's freaking true. I mean, hell, you got other stuff to be excited for, like the fact that we're probably going to get Minerva for Genesis, which is another Regalia.
That is true. Regalia has been very fun. I've been testing it out, just doing shit with it. It's been really cool.
Yeah. So
like
if we're talking, oh, sorry, go on. All right. So if we're talking about reverses, right? Gear. I know you're saying, oh god, this conversation. I want to bring this up though. How do we feel about an Amon reverse?
What would an Amon reverse do?
My question exactly.
Like, you'd be locking units and then locked units get sucked up into Soul? Like,
Your the opponent may stick one card in their hand into the soul to unlock one of their units.
What? One of their units?
Like,
why?
Like Amon locks the opponent's units, right?
No.
And
Unless you're talking about reverse
and the
Amon.
opponent. Yes, there's a reverse Amon. That's what I'm saying. This hypothetical reverse Amon would lock the opponent's entire field, and the opponent would then soul charge like one or two, I'm not sure, to unlock their units. So it would and then Amon would gain some kind of benefit.
You know what would be interesting? If reverse Amon had a skill to whereas base Amon is building up the opponent's soul, it'd be interesting if reverse Amon forced them to soul blast everything, and then it gains effects based on how many is soul blasted. That would be cool. That'd be a pretty cool one. Be like, okay, we built you up, now get rid of it. That'd be a little bit weird though, because some decks are
it would be very weird.
Yeah, because some decks are really good at soul blasting already, so maybe reverse Amon's not even that great for it. One idea I also thought is, because here's one thing about Amon as a deck right now. It's not a multi-attack clan. It's got 3 attacks, that's it. So if it had an ability to maybe superior cross ride, during the battle, from the hand or something, or maybe from the soul, that'd be interesting. If it had an ability after Amon attacks from the soul to ride itself for some costs, maybe locking a couple units or something and discarding. I could see that. Yeah, kind of like Konzo. I could totally see that. That would be trippy. That'd be trippy as a motherfucker, because now you get another van attack, of course, but then the fact that it's multi-attack at all, and it's a follow-up to something like Amon, which is swing with crits, big-ass number, all that jazz, that's good. That's really good.
I mean, we'll see. It's gonna be hard. Essentially, for me personally, thinking about it, at least the way I build it, it has to have a really good effect for me to even consider putting it. Because locking my own units, which most reverse units do, is pretty costly. Because we're a 3-attack clan, and it's it has to be something that's kind of I guess you can say costless, which is maybe greedy considering that all the Amon cards is pretty costless by themselves. But it's because I already play Giles and Gastille, and I'm telling you, Gastille's not leaving the deck, because that's literally how I win games.
That's the deck identity.
And then Giles has a lot of utility needed. So it's am I willing to sacrifice the utility Giles gave me for whatever possible power boost that a reverse Amon would give? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, we'd have to see. Like, it really depends. It's so, like, up in the air what it's going to do that we can't even tell at this point. We don't even know what Aquaforce is going to get. I'm thinking Transcore, but I just think that's because that's the only thing we're missing from the Break Ride era.
I agree. Transcore seems like the most logical thing that they could get. I mean, Link Joker, they got Infinite Zero not that long ago,
Infinite,
which is
then
a similar thing.
Nebula, and now they're getting Glendios. They were all Break Ride era cards.
Right, so, and other clans got some of that stuff too a while ago. So yeah, we should probably expect Transcore. If not that, maybe the Tetra Legion, perhaps.
Oh, Tetra Burst? You know, honestly, maybe that's what they'll do. Maybe they'll do the Transcore and then the Tetra Legion pair with like Starless and Tetra Burst, and that's your 3 cards. Like you don't even get a grade 1 this time around.
Maybe though. I'll be honest. I would like a grade 1 that can search my Maelstrom pieces.
Yeah, like not even
Yeah, so
Maelstrom,
like
just
you
your
don't
pieces.
have
Man, that
other
sure would
pieces that
help.
does that.
Like, look, have it be like Yu-Gi-Oh with the Dark Magician support, right? Where like you pay a cost like Soul Blast 1 when placed, keep top 3, add a card that has Maelstrom and its effects text to your hand, and then shuffle the rest. You know, like
That just tells me you want Analyzer.
No,
But
he wants
somehow
Press
Analyzer,
Stream.
Press Stream Dragon.
He wants Press Stream, dude.
Like, dude, I need my pieces. If I don't have my pieces, then I'm not playing the deck to its fullest potential, you know? So, being able to have a searcher for my pieces that's a grade 1 would be very nice.
Yeah, like
Plus,
whether you're
it'd be
playing.
like a good first ride target. Because, like, dude, in Maelstrom, we don't have any good first ride targets. I mean, yeah, arguably Bubble Ball Corporal and, like, Baragios, but I don't play Baragios.
Smoach.
But, like, Bubble Ball Corporal, she's only really good going second, you know? So like, and it's an on hit. So like, I'd prefer like a good going one first, going first ride, that just allows me to keep 3 for a thing that mentions it. It could whiff, but like, I don't know. I just feel like it's necessary for the deck.
Right, right. And on top of that, let's be real. Like, there are other things you can do. Like, for instance, you could be a madman like me and run like Nikki Dennis just to arbitrarily give good rides. But
I contest that.
yeah, very much, very much. But here's the thing. One other thing I see people do, and I'm trying this out, I just think this is wrong. Wheel Assault. People are like, oh yeah, if you want a random ride target, well, here's Wheel Assault. Don't do it. There's better ways of using your CB.
I mean, Maelstrom already has 3 cards in the counterblast, or 4, I guess. You got Maelstrom himself. You got 5, all 3 Maelstroms. All 3
All of them
Maelstroms
do it.
counterblast. All of them do it. You got Press Stream Dragon, and you got Elpida if you don't have Radiate Assault, right? So like, that's a lot of counterblast going around. I don't run Light Signals Penguin Soldier. I don't have a countercharger. My main method of like getting more counterblast available to me is by healing. Because all my drive checks, I'm bound to heal at some point, right? But I don't know. I don't know. The counterblast for Wheel Assault's not worth it in that deck. Other decks, maybe, sure, like Revonn or Cobalt Wave or something, decks that don't really counterblast that much. But like, not here. Not here.
Yeah, and I'd imagine that Transcore is going to have some sort of like a like guard restrict type thing that it gives to the Vanguard. So Transcore may or may not be seeing play in Maelstrom because Maelstrom's already kind of a set like game style, and they're really like hung up about riding their Maelstroms.
I mean, Transcore is probably just going to end up being paired up with like his number 1 partner here,
Tetra-Drive.
Dragon.
Yeah.
I mean, adding a guard restrict to Tetra-Drive would be really cool. I've also prepared because in Premium, Amphibian Dragon, Amphibian Dragon, right, Transcore from the deck.
Yes. It's pretty. That probably will have to be like the topic of the next video. Is like talking about the premium selection stuff because we're almost past that, fellas. Can you believe it? So many good reviews there.
Yeah,
Crazy.
they're almost all revealed.
Yeah.
Fury Argus, let's go.
Very Argus. That G-Guard Shadows guy, oh my god, the nuts. Speaking of Shadows, one thing to bring up is for V-Clan Collection, we already know what like the main grade 3 we're getting because it's a cover card. Good old Drag Ruler. We're not done with Revengers, boys. We're not done with them. And we may not be done with them for the next set either, because there's still another big one we haven't got.
Blaster Dark Revenger.
No. Blaster Dark Revenger will probably be a part of this set. We haven't gotten the Legion Revengers, which was Phantom Blaster Abyss. It's basically like the inverse of Thing Saver. You know, the best name ever in Vanguard, but like, okay.
Thing Saver Dragon, Saver of Things.
Very, very concrete
You
detail
do be
there.
saving things. You do.
Yeah, we know exactly what things are, right, fellas? So, okay. I don't know what they're going to do for Dracula, because I was like discussing this with Assault Rider earlier in the day, right? And we don't really understand at this point, what does Revengers even need? It seems like it's a very complete deck at this point. I mean, the fact that it's doing so well right now, it's like, how do they top it, right? And I just think to myself, okay, you're adding in a 4th grade 3 into the subclan. And it's like, we've already got Raging Reverse, we've already got RFD, which RFD is going to stay in the deck no matter what. Not just because I think he's the greatest unit of all time, but because he's also the best Revenger. He's the thing that makes everything go together. But the real question with Dracula is, okay, is it going to be Mordred Phantom-centric or not? Because it's a cross-ride of, like, Mordred Phantom. Does anyone have any ideas on what that thing could possibly do? I'll give a hint, though, that its old effect was CB1, retire 2 rears to get 10k power. But get this. You dealt the opponent 1 damage, they had 4 or less damage. That was what its old effect did. It was the first ever unit to deal a damage in the game.
Is that only a ride-on effect?
No, it's an act effect during the main phase.
Well, I doubt it will have that if it's like something can always act.
I mean, it
'Cause
used to have that.
I mean, if you look at the cards that deal direct damage, they either A, be like Gastille, have to soul charge 20, or B, be like Malkuth Melith, you have to be specific. Your opponent has to be specifically grade 2, and it's only when ride on. So
the thing that it was its restriction, which is a very like good restriction, was it had 2 restrictions to it. One thing was your opponent couldn't be at 5 damage; it had to be 4 or less cards in the damage zone. So you can't win the game with it, but it also has another restriction, which is that it was a limit break effect, as one would imagine. So you had to be at 4 more damage. So maybe they may take the limit break effect. I don't know.
yes, a Paladin Vanguard with limit break. Tell me something original.
Hey, bro, I'm just saying, Duke and Raging are the only 2 that has that. Duke and Raging are the only 2 that has that, and they could be very fine with like continuing the trend. I mean, it's kind of the Revenger feel, you know, like you hit them really hard, so they hit back twice as hard. That's revenging. I don't know.
Rising Revenge.
LOL. So, Dreamsicle. Do you have any ideas?
Yes.
What do you think a like just ignoring what Drag Ruler had like effect was, or how even if you think it just expand on it, what do you think a new grade 3 for Revengers would be like? Because you've seen the deck play.
A new grade 3 for Revengers. Fuck. It's so hard because Revengers is just kind of like... Revengers is such a pop-off strategy where it's like they already have a pop-off grade 3. So all I could think of them getting is like a resource grade 3.
A resource grade 3? Ooh, that's interesting. Huh.
So like a grade 3 that like doesn't necessarily like fucking kill you, but like it just net pluses you out the wazoo.
That could be interesting, actually. Maybe it would be like a potential first ride target. That could be a way of doing it, but it does seem a little bit backwards because it's supposed to be a cross ride of Mordred already. So,
Yeah, that's true.
One question here, and I think this is a potentially really big question because this thing's going to be kind of tied to Mordred, right? Probably. Do we get Blaster Dark Revenger with the effect to be treated as Blaster Dark?
All just so you can justify playing Mordred even more.
Yes. Make Mordred 100% consistent.
I forget, did the original get treated as Blaster Dark?
No, it didn't need to.
The original just can be what was the other Paladin also treated as?
The
Blaster Blade?
it can be treated as a Royal Paladin.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
That's probably what you're thinking about.
But yeah, like the original Blaster Dark Revenger didn't need to be treated as like Blaster Dark because there weren't a lot of cards that were very specific to Blaster Dark because V Mordred wasn't out yet. Blaster Dark Revenger had a pretty bad skill actually. It only had one skill, which was when it was placed, you had to CB2 in order to pop one of their units. That
You
was
don't care
it.
about that.
Yeah, like
you might just take that just so you can just see it.
Yeah, like literally, it could be a vanilla for all I care at this point. But if we just have Blaster RP treated as a Revenger, then everything changes because then you literally have so much synergy with it. RFD can get it, Renal can get it, everything can freaking get it. It would just become godly at that point. So I hear a lot of complaints are like, no, don't do that. Unless you like Revengers, then everyone who likes them are saying yes, 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 please. So the bias is clear.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it'll be Blaster Dark focused. Maybe it'll continue the Mordred trend. I don't know how to feel about that though. I don't know because if you do that, then you're like distancing yourself from the raging form side of things. Which I'll be real with you guys. If push comes to shove, if this thing just acts as a good finisher, like an even better finisher than Raging Fall, this might just replace Raging Fall, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, my money's on it just being like another aggressive unit that is aggressive in its own unique way, but like, you know, it I don't know that it would necessarily replace another unit, but it would like be an alternative, so you could sort of pick and choose and then build your deck around having whichever finisher you prefer.
Right. That's probably like a good way of looking at it. If it does maintain the damage effect, then it probably is going to be a sort of a finisher because that damage effect is just mean. It's just a big meanie weenie kind of effect. But okay, I think that's enough on drag rollers. So I think we've kind of come to this idea that it's really up in the air. But if we're being realistic, it's probably just going to be like an alternative finisher.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like its own deck with Mordred.
Yeah, its own that's a really good point. It just like basically it just cements this idea of okay, do you want to play like raging side of things or do you want to play the Mordred drag ruler side of things? Which I refuse.
Phantom Blaster Dragon.
That Phantom Blaster Dragon Abyss. Yeah, that's his whole other topic. That one's probably easier to call just because it's going to be sort of like a mirror of what ThingSaver was, but just opposite, just like how they were in the old days. Yeah. So moving on from that, if we were to like look at the state of things, right, and we're just looking at what we're going to be getting this next set, is there any predictions regarding this next set outside of what we talked about?
Hopefully, good Mega Colony cards.
What would a good Mega Colony card look like, Dream? You're the expert among us on this one. What would you want?
Okay, it either needs something that finally ties all the different Mega Colony stuff together. Like you have a paralyzed Cradle Marker combo, or you can't really combine anything with machining. It's its own thing. But like a paralyzed Cradle combo card would be insane. Or something that just like raises the ceiling of the deck. Like it needs it so bad.
Yeah, maybe something that gives like something that's actually kind of a finisher because Mega Colony's problem to be is that it just doesn't have strong power output.
That's true. You're ending on an antline, and even antline doesn't do enough sometimes.
Yeah, if you were a Force Clan, Antlion would be a much different story.
Yes,
but
if I was a Force Clan, antline would be very, very good.
Unfortunate. Gearshift, you have actually dabbled very, very briefly in Mega Colony. Do you have any thoughts on this? Like, what do you think would be like their dream reveal in this next set?
A grade 2 or a grade 1 card that does something in in synergistic with either Gradle or Paralyze. Well, if we're just talking about Gradle, just something that doesn't just say Gradle, but depending on if a unit is Gradle, has some utility effects to it.
Ooh, I just thought of an interesting one. What if they had an effect, right? And maybe this is even the grade 3, because this feels like a grade 3 thing. So it has an effect to select like 2 of your opponent's units, right? And if they don't have a marker on them, put a cradle marker on them. If they do have a marker on them, i.e. it's something like an equip gauge, a divine gauge, maybe even a gift marker, right? Remove the markers. That's trippy.
Bit niche, but has its applications.
That'd be a great way of like setting them back. It's not a finisher though. That's a point, right? It's not a finisher. So yeah.
I mean, your finisher is
Basically, be like a Mega Colony Chaos Breaker.
Mega Colony Chaos. I mean, hey, Kagero got a couple of like marker wipe cards. They can join the club.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe that's what they'll get. But I think we're on agreement. They need more power output, right? Like they have plenty of disruption at this point. They have plenty of disruption. They have plenty of different like variety as well. I mean, you've got a lot of things that you can do in Mega Colony. It's just that you can't actually push for game in that deck very easily.
It's
Hey,
so rough.
Here's a fringe thing. What if Transcore, when rode upon, could counterblast 1 to get you another Excel?
Considering
Because
the
that's
fact
what
that
deck needs.
I don't know, 'cause, like, dude, when you think about it, when you're riding over it, that's your second Excel that game at least, because you've already rode it and
And now
presumably
it's
has
a
the Excel.
third.
Do you really need that? I mean, you know what? I kind of contend that because I feel like that's what Spino Driver does already, and with Spino makes more sense. I don't know if we're
Dude,
gonna get that.
It makes it easier to facilitate the whole Tetra-Drive restand thing, because now you don't need as many restanders, you just need units.
You say that, but Excel literally gives you units.
Yeah, on top of that, Tetra-Drive's whole thing is Tetra-Drive runs a
We
bunch
could
of
get
like...
a trigger.
Dude, Tetra-Drive already runs a
get
bunch of
triggers.
multi-attack, dude. You don't need the extra marker because you already run a bunch of multi-attack. I mean, just look at Assault Rider. Dude plays like frickin'... He plays like everything under the sun. He plays things like Terrifical. He plays Wheel Assault to get the exchanges, Tidal Assault. Like, he plays all these things, and you can play all those things. I don't think you need it, but if it got it, it would be nice. That's just another way to get an extra Excel. Is it Percival-y? No, it's not Percival-y because it's not filling the card on the Excel
Percival's
marker.
act on the things, you know, whereas like this would just be when rode upon, so you'd have to plan it.
I think Transcore only becomes worth it, in all honesty, if like if it had like a really insane ride effect, of course, but I think Transcore only becomes worth it if, in addition to the insane ride effect, it had an effect that it itself can utilize. That's like fairly strong, you know, kind of like how like Spino and Dudley Emperor, like they have a win rode upon, but they also have a when it attacks. Transcore is going to need that stipulation because this isn't Break Ride era. We can't just chill on something that's basically a vanilla for a turn, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's my thought process. Maybe... Oh, okay. If you wanted the Excel... Well, no, because then if you ride it and then you attack with it and it gets an extra Excel, then when rode upon, you're at 4 Excels by turn 4. That's what Percival Duke was.
Yeah, no, maybe not something that extreme.
Yeah,
I feel like Transcore on his own on the Transcore turn would just like gain 15, gain a crit or something.
So Revonn?
That seems more reasonable.
Yeah, like when not necessarily a Revonn effect, but like, you know, he would get that for like paying a cost or something.
Maybe
like,
there's a wave.
Instead of Revonn, it'd be like, yeah, like instead of Revonn's like you need to have this many rested, it'd be like if you hit like if this is the 5th attack or more, then you know counterblast 1 gains 15 in a crit.
You know what's interesting? I just thought of something. So we all know one of my favorite, well, maybe we don't know this is one of my favorites. We all know about this Kagero unit, Dauntless, right? So V Dauntless has like a couple really cool effects. Got a restand, it's got the power up thing, right? But when you ride over it, it gives the next thing it rode over, like it was ridden over, all of its auto abilities. Yeah, it gave it all of its effects. So maybe that's what it does, right? So as a standalone unit, you're getting those effects, but then you basically combo it by giving it over to the next thing. So what if it had like things where it gets progressively stronger as the waves go on? So with things like Maelstrom, yeah, you can use it, but then with Tetra-Drive is not only restanding twice and attacking 3 times total, but it's getting stronger each time because you're increasing your waves.
That sounds
True,
like an
like give it
interesting
an
concept.
inherent feel of Gatos thing. Like when your other unit attacks, this unit gains 5k.
Right, and then maybe once you
similar
hit
to
like
Feel of
4th
Gatos.
wave, it gets a drive, and then maybe when you hit like 7th wave, it gets a crit or something. And so, and especially if it got a drive by 4th wave or something, that directly counters its main problem, which is losing drives.
Right.
I can see
So
that.
that could be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool.
I think that's probably the best way to handle Transcore, actually. And that's even useful for other stuff. I mean, you can give that to things like Revonn if you want, because it needs a lot of rested units anyway, so it works perfectly. Maelstrom, potentially? I mean, that's a way to, like, give even more advantage to Maelstrom.
Well, yeah, though, I mean, like, base Maelstrom on his own already has the pressure, plus you're going to be riding into other Maelstroms after the fact. So, like,
I mean, I don't know about
it feels a
reverse at
little
this
clunky
point.
to just add another. Well, I mean, reverse is good in his certain matchups. I mentioned Messiah before and any other decks that are, like, rear guard reliant,
Yeah. So,
it just didn't come up in Springfest.
yeah, fair enough. But yeah, still, it probably seems like, yeah, be like a really cool idea just to give like these nice progressive wave abilities over to the next guy. And it has themselves too, so you're still encouraged to play aggressively. Yeah, so,
Right.
yeah, if that was Transcore, I mean, that's a win. I mean, Aquaforce eats well. I'm not sure if it's Feriargus well, but it eats well.
Mm-hmm.
Or still don't know what the Freight Dragon was going to do. But whatever it is, it'll probably be at least fairly good. Assault Rider is calling for like every Revenger this next set to like have a discard effect just to balance them out. But I'm like, you can't give him the Starvader treatment because Starvaders only had 3 cards prior to like all this discarding and like other like power output checking stuff, right? Like they were able to intercept Starvaders early enough. You can't intercept Revengers. It's already a complete deck. If you start giving discard effects to everything and making them kind of weaker, we just don't run them. We're still fine. So yeah, you can't do that. Any other thoughts on like the next V Clan Collection set before we close out today's episode?
Not much. I'm just honestly, I don't know much about what's about to show, so I'm just
Bushiro,
gonna be
feed me,
happy surprised.
please.
Can we please get some hints here? We're starving out here, boys. We're starving. We want that content. We want to be able to anticipate. There have been no hints.
Yeah.
I'm afraid they're going to do what they did for premium selection and be like, you know what? Rather than just give hints, when we drop them, we drop them. So we don't even know what we're getting. We're just going to like get the effect and like everything about the card like all at once.
I mean, the only thing
That'd
I
be
can
pretty
ask for
funny.
is for certain cards does release to just get more support.
Yep.
Because there's been plenty of especially the past Clan Collection. There's just cards that's been released, but it's not playable as a deck till it has more cards that support it.
Yeah. I mean, they're kind of exacerbating that right now, I think, because, like, for instance, we're pretty sure we're going to get the Amon stuff, and, I mean, Amon did need more support, so it's fine we're getting the Amon followers. We're going to get more Starvaders, so, I mean, Starvaders didn't need more, but they're getting more. Revengers didn't need more, they're getting more. Frickin' what else
We're
doesn't...
getting Glendios.
Yeah, we're getting Glendios. Oh my god, Glendios. I mean, I think the only one other than me who can even talk about Glendios really was like Forethought here a bit. But yeah, that thing was insane. That thing was like if Dracula was noted for being the first card that ever dealt like a damage through an effect, Glendios went up that by being the first card in this game to have an alternative win condition. Like legit. Its old effect was like at the beginning of like the main phase, right? If your opponent had 5 or more locked cards, you won the game. That's it. That's all it needed to do.
And dude, Starvaders, they could do that.
Ironically enough,
they can do that easily, probably.
Yeah. Infinite Zero is really helpful for that, I think. I think you break right over Infinite Zero into Glendios, and like you can achieve that like nobody's business. Call down Barrel to like make it an Omega lock.
Especially if Glendios has his own locking ability, that would just accelerate things.
It kind of has to. I mean, the old Glendios did. I mean, it would kind of have to because, sure, okay, let's say you got Ideal, right? And you're like, okay,
Once
well,
per turn, when you place a reverse, lock a card.
that's another thing. They need to change the rules to allow reverses in V premium. They're only allowed in premium currently, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, very unfortunately. Especially since
Dude,
people
the
are
crazy
trying Raging
fucking Link
Reverse.
Joker decks that are gonna exist. The crazy Link Joker decks that are gonna exist now because of like reverse stuff.
I know, right? There's so many like combinations. People have been trying like Raging Reverse and like Messiah. Some folk have been attempting a mix of Starvader with reverse Maelstrom. I mean, reverse Dauntless is another one that has been seeing a lot of potential. Like people have been wondering about that one in Link Joker.
Man, Link Joker with fucking Excel and Protect markers.
That would be Link Joker with Protect. I think would be really funny.
I mean, they're kind of a grindy, like, especially with like Lendios, if they're
Like
just gonna like go
it
for the.
exacerbates. Let's grind this game out more than it already needs to be.
Yeah, seriously, like just have like the protect markers as your base ride, and then like have something like, I don't know, Chaos Breaker, like just steal some freaking force markers. That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, that's pretty scary stuff. Not gonna lie. My personal theory for V Glendios though is it'll have like the Omega Lock ability and the ability to like have the win con. But I don't know why. But I'm really fixating this idea that it'll give an ability to make your rearguard reverses, or at least one of your rearguard reverses, have a Vanguard circle. So now they're Vanguards as well. That would be interesting. I mean, the amount of combos you get with that is insane.
That my brother is also theorizing on that. Kiwi, he's really hoping that the rearguard circles are treated as Vanguard circles with the reverse. You know?
Yeah, I'm glad he's on that train
Like,
too.
why?
Kiwi's like the Link Joker player in the group, you know, so I'd imagine he's on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Ran out for a good time. I think this was a pretty good outing of like the podcast. Glad to have all you guys on board. I say this like I'm the host. I'm not. So,
Yeah, get out of here, Godsman. I'm the host here, even though you're doing most of the fucking talking.
It is a weakness and is a strength. Okay, it closes out fourth wall.
Man, you big ass mouth. Fucking okay. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for today's episode of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed. Lots of interesting topics covered today, and next time around, who knows? Maybe we'll get into our thoughts on the premium selection stuff. We'll probably bring my brother Kiwi along with this. And as for what you can look forward to apart from that, I've got some Aqua Force deck profiles I need to do. I got some Link Joker. And yeah, hope to see you guys there. And channel links and stuff will be in the description. And I hope to see you all there. Take care, everyone.
God bless.